So welcome everybody. This is the Thursday, April 24th, 2025 meeting of the Somerville Fair Housing Commission. And pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2025, this meeting of the Somerville Fair Housing Commission will be conducted via remote participation, and we will have an audio recording available upon request as soon as possible after this meeting. So I'm going to ask the other commissioners for formal consent to call the meeting to order.
That's a yes.
I see yeses from Commissioners Janine and Rona. The meeting is called to order. We got the draft minutes shortly before 1 o'clock this afternoon. I'd like to ask the commissioners whether you want to take a few minutes to look them over now or defer that until the next meeting. What's your pleasure?
It's only a page. I can read it now.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's more than
I
one
just
page.
am finishing up
It's more than
reading.
a page.
Yeah.
It's usually only a page.
Well, the agenda is only a page. The minutes are.
The
Pretty
minutes
good.
have the stuff about planning for the Fair Housing Month, so
Oh,
there's more detail, but
Okay. Well, that's the invitation. I'm not sure I even saw it. So I guess we should wait.
Okay. With your consent, Janine, we'll hold off the
sure.
draft minutes. And Shannon, you'll put that on the agenda for next time that we'll review the minutes for both the March and April meetings. Thank you. All right. Standing agenda items. The Somerville Fair Housing Commission has a Facebook page. Astonishingly, you can find it under Somerville Fair Housing Commission, all one word. Since our last meeting, the most popular post, one was we do a news item each Monday. The news item was about a lawsuit by the Urban League, the National Fair Housing Alliance, and other organizations opposing the Trump administration's restrictions on diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility programs in federally funded organizations. 120 of our Facebook readers saw the post. 5 liked or reacted to it in some way, and 1 shared it. So that was a pretty widely attended to. The other thing that we do regularly is a fair housing question of the week on Fridays. And we got one, we got a question about people living in a housing complex, and can the complex ban children playing outside? And the answer is basically no, with minor exceptions and restrictions. 81 people saw that, 6 reacted to it, and 2 shared. So those, the fair housing question of the week and the news item on Monday are both regular features. We also had a number of announcements about April being Fair Housing Month, and we often also, as a favor to the city's housing division, will pass along information about inclusionary units coming up for rent or for lottery. But those are the two types of posts that we do on a regular basis. So comments, questions? Okay. We'll ask Shannon to review the calls and complaints since the last meeting.
Yeah, so I got 1 call or one submission to the referral form in the last month. This is based on source of income. So a household received a notice to quit following unpaid rent because one of the household members is no longer employed. But they had applied for raft assistance after receiving the notice to quit because you need to have a notice to quit in order to apply for raft. They asked the landlord to fill out their portion of the application, and the landlord said that they would, but then they didn't do it by the deadline and the application lapsed. And the landlord they rescinded the notice to quit, but sent a notice of non-renewal to the household. and their lease ends on May 31st. So for this, I did consult a little bit with Office of Housing Stability. And basically I sent a follow-up via email to them. But I told them to reapply for Raft, and ask the landlord to fill out their part of the application again in order to receive that rental assistance. And then, if the landlord doesn't fill it out, and that prevents them from receiving the funding, then that is a violation of fair housing law, under the source of income protected class. And I sent them some of the resources about that so they can send it to the landlord if they need to, like the landlord FAQs from the state website and all of that. And then based on my talk with OHS, they said that another option, which might be a good one, is that if they don't want to fill out the form, which I don't know why they wouldn't want to receive the rental assistance, but if they don't want to fill out the form and they indicate in writing that they're forgiving the unpaid rent and not holding the tenant liable in writing, then that could be another option. But you would think that they would want the rent paid. So yeah.
Shannon, can you share the you said something about the FAQs for like relative to landlords. I probably should know that, but I actually am working with someone now, and the landlord is taking a really long time. So I would appreciate that because I can send it along to the tenant.
Yeah. Is this for Raft? Because the FAQs
It is
are
for Raft, yeah.
okay, perfect. Yeah, I'll send that one.
Yeah, I'm wondering
And
if the,
just,
go ahead.
I'm just going to clarify for anybody who might be currently or in the future watching that Raft is one of the rental subsidy programs that tenants are eligible for. They're all usually called voucher programs, but there are others. And as Shannon indicated, discriminating against people because their source of income is one of these voucher programs is against the Fair Housing Act. Commissioner Rona, back to you.
Yeah, my question is whether we should put some of that tenant-facing information on the website. And like, just have like a once a month how-to kind of thing. What are the things that are reasonable to ask your landlord to do if you're applying for Raft? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that becomes like a legal thing with the city and whether we have to go through the city solicitor to make sure we're not giving legal information without a license or something.
I think we can share whatever resources the state has available on their website, probably.
Use their sites or
Mm-hmm.
and maybe once a month just have a random. Here's a website that old tenants could be looking at.
Yeah.
And that would also highlight some of the stuff that's already on the city website that people don't go to. Like there's a tenant handbook on there and there's a whole bunch of things on there.
So, did I hear correctly, Shannon, you're going to share those FAQs with Janine? I think if you could copy Rona and me and the other commissioners on that, that would be useful.
Yeah, definitely. I'll share the FAQs, and also there's landlord FAQs, and then there's know your rights for source of income discrimination, also from the state. So I'll share both of those.
Thank you.
And I can commit to having those appear on the Facebook page at some point also. Another question, and this is directly as a result of the Fair Housing Month programs, which we're going to talk about shortly, but is this non-action by the landlord, is this one of those things that gives the tenant some kind of right to keep the landlord from refilling the apartment?
So they can decide not to renew the lease. That's not out of fair housing law. But if they do decide to not fill it out, if they decide to not fill out the form, then that's in violation of the law. So I think like if they were gonna evict them for that, no, I don't think that they could refill the unit because already they're in violation. But since they're just not renewing the lease, then there's nothing really to do there.
Too bad.
I know.
As far as I know.
Yeah, so it's not considered retaliation if they don't renew the lease.
That's
that-
tricky.
Yeah.
It maybe could be. And I did suggest that they can go to MCAD about it. But I think that their first step would be to ask the landlord again to fill out the form
Mhm.
for them, because maybe it just was that they forgot. But I mean, yeah, it could be retaliation, but I can't really say. I think that an attorney would need to look into that.
I think that falls into that attorney land where we're not supposed to go.
Will you be hearing back from this tenant? Will you be staying in touch?
I'll follow up with them. Yeah. Hopefully I'll hear back.
Any other comments or questions about this? Well, thank you very much, Shannon. Okay, now the moment that everybody has been waiting for, debriefing about the April Fair Housing Month activities, namely the Color of Law panel discussion and the Section 8 Know Your Rights event. Who wants to speak about this first?
I guess the only thing I would say is that I was very pleased with the turnout compared to, I mean, I haven't been on the commission that long, but the past events were not as well attended as the one that I was at. It was really nice. And plus I understand that there were some people watching virtually for that one too. So, you know, that was great. I was very happy about that.
Yeah, and I don't know how much, because, and this is the problem with, we can't do A/B testing on this. You know, how much of the turnout was because the other commissions and city offices were better informed about it, and how much of the turnout was because there was food.
But but people, oh, it was on the flyer. That
It was on the
food. That's
flyer.
right. Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, still, like honestly, if it gets people there, I think it was a pretty engaged audience once they were there. But yeah, you're right. If it says food, people do tend to come. But
Mhm.
still, I think it was great just to see so many people, and the food was really good too.
The food was good.
Janine and Rona, I know that each of you participated, Janine as a panelist and Rona as a moderator. Do you have any comments from about your own participation or your view from the chair?
I mean, I learned a lot from the other panelists actually,
Yeah.
who had a different, I would say, a more scholarly or you know, I don't know, educated view of some of the issues. That I mean, mine was from the gut and from experience in the community, and Hez was, I think, also from that, but also I think he had you know, very specific like policy things that he knew more about than I did, and I was very impressed with that and learned a lot from him. So I was glad that they invited. I was glad he was invited.
Yeah, no, he was inspired. That was
Yeah.
very good. And part of it is because he's in strategic planning. He's
That's
got
it.
a much bigger umbrella
Yes.
than we look at. And to a certain extent, the book that we read is a slightly different umbrella.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
You
Yeah,
know,
it's nice.
You know, his sense of solution is different than Rothstein's
Yep.
sense of solutions.
Although I want to say I've just started reading the follow-up book to The Color of Law, which he wrote with his daughter, who brings a different set of skills and experiences to it. Here it is. It's called Just Action: How to Challenge segregation enacted under the color of
Hmm.
law. And I'm just in the second chapter, but you know, I think it's very interesting. And yeah, as the commission are, we're, and even more so, I think Shannon, as an employee of the city, we're limited to focusing on this person wants to complain about discrimination as a member of this protected class in this way. And, their whole, I mean, the book that you discussed broadens it to talk about history and government policy, and then this about ways of resisting and challenging. And that's, I think that falls under our educational mandate. And
Absolutely.
I'm really glad we did it. Shannon, you helped organize both that and the Section 8 Know Your Rights event. Did you have any like thoughts after the fact about this?
Yeah, well, first I want to say thank you so much, Janine and Rona, so, so, so much. Really could not have done it without either of you. And Janine, I think that the panel was amazing and you guys were a good complement to each other. I think that
I
you
think
brought,
so.
yeah,
Yeah.
like two really good perspectives and two different sets of expertise that complemented each other really well. And then Rona, with the last minute stepping in to be moderator and the last minute
Yes.
preparation for Todd not being in person and all
Oh,
of
God,
that.
Oh
yeah.
boy, I did not realize that.
Yeah, that was pretty wild. I don't know if you caught all that, Janine.
I did not. I did
Yeah,
Yeah,
not.
Todd,
it was like 3 days
Todd
before
had
the
an
event.
opportunity. He had a sudden grandchild,
Oh my gosh. Well,
and
I'll
he had an
cut him some
opportunity
slack.
to stay there with the grandchild in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And and he's like, well, how do we work around this? So Todd was there on Zoom, and
Okay.
we got Susan Shemaine from OHS, Office of Housing Stability,
Yep.
to be there in person.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
So Todd was there for about 50 minutes and then clicked off. But he sort of did the overall sort of lecture piece of it, and then was there for some of the questions, and then Susan took over from there.
And
Wow.
I'll
Yeah,
just
and your
mention that
well.
idea. Oh,
I'll just
sorry.
mention that Todd is attorney Todd Kaplan from Cambridge and Somerville Legal Services, which is now part of Greater Boston Legal Services. And he's a person with long experience working in this area. I'm sorry, go ahead with what you
Yeah,
were
that's
saying.
okay. Yeah, we're acronyming and not fully doing things. So you're getting the notes right. But yeah, so we had sudden craziness, and we got back Tuesday morning, and I was like, I had seen the note from Todd on Saturday night, and I'm like, I'm not dealing with this until after my holiday. And then,
Makes sense.
Yeah,
Well,
but
I'm glad
and
it worked
thinking
out.
of,
it worked
yeah,
out really well.
Yeah, I'm glad.
and it really was because Rona was like, we need someone in person, and I know Susan, and Susan was perfect because
Oh,
we
cool.
did want to talk about Summer VIP, the voucher incentive program.
Yes.
Anyway, we wanted to have someone who knew a lot about the program there anyway. So having her there in person and having him on Zoom, I think that was really great too.
Yeah.
I think the other thing is, like, I tried to write down everything, like all the steps that had to be taken to prep for the events. So hopefully next year things will like I'll know what to do and an
Right.
order of when to do them, which might make it run a little smooth. Also because MAPC, Metropolitan Area Planning Council, is helping us for next year, or like in the interim. I think that will make things run smoother. But yeah, I think I learned a lot from the events, and I'm excited for next year.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it'll be good.
I think they went really well. I was my daughter came to the panel one, and
Right.
she was very eager to show that, like, the more things change, the more things stay the same with the redlining map. She's
Right.
like, wow, what a big surprise. It's like, well, little steps, Grace, come on, But yeah, I thought it was just really, I give everybody a lot of credit because I thought that one was really well run. And gosh, I'm sorry that I missed the second one, but it sounds like you handled it with aplomb and that everything went really, really well. So I'm glad to hear that as well.
Yeah. And good food. Good food.
And
is
good
most
food.
Yes,
Yeah,
very
and-
good food.
And we had audience members that were from the Human Rights Commission
Oh,
and
nice.
couple extra people from MAPC came besides the person who's assigned to us.
Nice.
And one person from RSJ was at both events, racial social justice. So we're getting sort of, so that's a piece of something that I want to make sure we talk about
Mhm.
and are ready for the next round.
Yep.
Is sort of where all these synergies belong.
Mhm.
And make sure that we get them more solidly in place before we let MAPC go away.
Mhm. I think that makes sense, Rona. Yeah.
But that had a lot to do with how many people came.
Mhm.
So it's definitely a thing.
So Shannon, and then I want to call on myself briefly.
Oh yeah, I just wanted to add one thing for talking about like our relationship with racial and social justice department. They invited me to speak at their youth, what is it called? I think the youth league, on Tuesday. So
Oh.
I was sick on Tuesday, but I was like, I can do it from home. So I
Aw,
called in. I
bless
did it
your heart.
over Teams. And the kids are obviously really smart. And they asked like a lot of good questions. It was me and someone from Office of Housing Stability. So it was really, really great. So I think that that's another like, it's a good thing it happened in April. So April is Fair Housing Month and like connection between Housing Division and Fair Housing Commission and them.
Yeah.
So I want to reinforce that and say, let's not wait until we're planning April of next year. Let's keep looking for ways to work with the Department of Racial and Social
Good idea.
Justice, the Human Rights Commission, the Commission for People with Disabilities, the Commission on for Women. Because these folks each has a slightly different constituency and network. And besides members of their, the activists in their commissions, attending our stuff and us attending theirs, or as you did, Shannon, presenting at theirs, hurrah. But, if we can get people who are, say, interested in accessibility issues, or people who are interested in the segregation issues that you were talking about, to also take an interest in I don't know, sending pastors from who is it, Suffolk University, and letting people in their circles know that that's even a possibility.
Yeah.
That would help out a lot. So that was one point I wanted to mention. And besides thanking the three of you and Todd and Sue, well, actually, is somebody sending a thank you to Todd and to Susan?
Yeah,
I've got it on my list, and Shannon, I think you already did, right?
I'm going to. I was going to
Okay.
earlier this week, but I was out of the office. So.
You were sick.
Right.
Yeah, are you okay now?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Mostly. If you hear me clear my throat, sorry.
Okay, so it
Not a
it
problem.
was a cold-like thing.
Yeah, I caught it over the weekend. So I missed
so
all
sorry.
of Fair Housing Month. I was healthy. That's the important
Yes,
thing.
that's okay.
We're very glad
You
for
made it
that.
through that, and then you got sick.
Is somebody sending a note to Carrie O'Donnell from the Somerville Public Library?
Oh, good
I sent
idea.
her one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Because they have been a great partner, not
They
only
sure have.
here, but in previous years as well. Okay. So I'm going to skip ahead slightly, since we brought up the consultation with the Metropolitan Area Planning Council, is it? MAPC? What do people have to report about that, or suggest about MAPC and us?
Did you all already have interviews with Gloria, or is it still
I
did.
have it, yeah, because Gloria was sick this week too, by the way.
Yeah,
I hope it wasn't our meeting.
me too. Yeah, I enjoyed speaking with her a lot. I thought she was really curious to know more about just like why the Fair Housing Commission was important to me personally, which I appreciated. But she also asked like about like different things that if you know in an ideal world what I would like for the Fair Housing Commission, and I went back to some things that we had talked about like enforcement, or like having a little more weight to be able to say to landlords and to people who are, violating fair housing law, to be able to say you're breaking the law, but not just say it, like have, I don't know, even if it's just a citation. And she liked that idea. And just, I mentioned like it would be great if there were ways that, that we could just work together to promote more fair housing policy, and promotion of it. But I enjoyed the conversation immensely. And she asked about where, how we do outreach and things like that, which was great. I talked about how great the library has been to us, and yeah, just I enjoyed the conversation a lot, and she took a lot of notes. So hopefully they'll translate into some good hints, and some good strategies. Yeah.
Yeah, and I haven't met with her because I was gonna meet, I think it was sometime last week.
Mhm.
And I think maybe it was Monday, but I could look it up. But I think it was Monday, and she woke up not feeling well.
Oh,
So we put it off. So I'm gonna meet with her next week.
cool.
And then I think she may be done because I think she's met with everybody else.
The only
So-
thing I'll add is that she's gonna be coming to our next month's meeting.
That's right. She said that.
And then she did ask me to ask you guys if there's anything else she should review before next month's meeting. And if there's not, that's fine. But just in case. I know you'll meet with her one-on-one, so.
Yeah, I don't know if Kay is talking to her about social media strategy, but
I'll
But
put that
that
on
is-
the list.
yeah,
Yeah.
but that's one of the strengths that Kay is bringing to the commission
Mhm.
that we're looking forward to having, since we're predominantly working with Facebook. And Facebook is an older demographic, and we should be in the other social medias that have a younger demographic.
Well, and as Janine has pointed out to me, some people have gotten off Facebook because they
Had
can't.
to do it.
Right, because they don't like its owner.
No,
And
to
same thing with the platform formerly known as Twitter.
Very similar. Yep.
So I met. I think we've moved on to the online education and outreach item, and we'll circle back to some of the other items. But I met with Commissioner Kay, who is our newest member, on April the 1st, and we had a fairly lengthy discussion about what we could be doing on Instagram, which is,
Oh, cool.
also owned by one of these objectionable
Yeah.
billions, but on the other hand, does, tend to reach a different demographic and is more photographic and video based, whereas, most of what we do is very text based. And one thing that, excuse me, that we talked about is that I think it's Commissioners Rona, Patrice, and I who have self-introduction videos up on the city's website. And because that happened before Commissioners Janine and Kay joined. So, that would be a low-hanging fruit.
Yeah, easy to do. Sure.
Do a like a minute thing. And, I'm going to suggest that you could go to the city, the Fair Housing page on the city website and see what the others did. And you don't have to copy them in any way, but it give you maybe some idea structure to do that.
Yeah, I should actually do a new one, because I did one as a working realtor and now I'm a retired realtor. So I can say things that I wasn't allowed to say when I was a realtor. Ha, ha, ha.
Okay. So, and you'll need to coordinate through Shannon with
Okay.
whoever it is that runs the city website in order to get stuff posted.
Got it.
And it's pretty simple. You can do it on your phone.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
I'll
we're
definitely
not talking
package.
about video either for the ages or for the Oscars. We're very informal and trying to just get the word out there so that people can say, fair housing. No, it's just these people who live in
Mhm.
Somerville like me.
Speaking of
So-
like having videos up on the website though, I wonder if like one thing that and this could be just my household, but we've been relying a lot on YouTube for information about all the things going on, because there tends to be some more alternative media that well, they're biased, but in a way that I approve of, I guess. But I wonder if there's a way for us to think about, and maybe this is something that that Gloria can help us with, but things, maybe some shorts or things that we can do that will appeal to folks that just want to like learn a little bit in on that format. I don't know if that's a little more work, but it just made me think of it, because if we're doing these tiny videos about ourselves, we might want to think about how we could have something else available. I click on YouTube clips a lot too, if I'm when I get an email or something, I will click on it. So something to think about.
Yeah, I'm also a video person and not a reader person, particularly on social
Yeah.
media. And, even things, what I've written blogs for my business and for myself for a long time. And some of the blogs that get hit all the time are the ones that ask questions that everybody asks.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we probably could come up with 25 questions that everybody asks about fair housing.
Yeah, for sure.
Like what is this disparate impact thing? What does that mean? What's discrimination and what's a bad, how do you tell the difference between a discrimination and just a bad landlord?
Mm-hmm.
Because people will type that kind of thing into a Google search,
Mm-hmm.
and they'd rather hear someone talk about it than have to read 5 pages.
Makes sense. Yeah.
And as somebody who's recently retired from nonprofit communications consulting, I can share that YouTube is actually the #2 search engine.
Oh,
After
really? I did not know that. Wow.
Yeah, a lot of people, instead of not only will go to Google and be drawn by the links to YouTube, but a lot of people will go to YouTube first for their
Directly.
information. So
That's good. That's interesting. And thinking about it now, I guess it makes sense. Yeah, but so that's definitely a market we should think about.
Yeah, we could create a channel. It's not very hard.
Says Rona.
As well, I've done it.
I know,
And
but-
if I can do it on a computer, it's not very hard.
and again, as with all of our stuff on behalf of the Fair Housing Commission, it's a city thing. So, having a volunteer from the commission be one owner is important, and having a city staff person also be a co-owner is also important, because, partly people get sick, leave jobs, retire from the commission, whatever. You never want to have just one person who has access. So we've kind of bounced back and forth between consultation with MAPC and talking with Gloria, and the broader topic of doing outreach online and in other ways. In either of those areas, does anybody have any additional thoughts they want to bring in?
Not really, except this is the year we're going to do it. Now
Well-
that we're done with the community facing programs, we can work on our back end.
Agreed.
A lot of people go to the gym for that.
I beg your pardon.
Arr.
So we're still in the updates on specific activities section. And it's a good thing that the commission has a lot of specific activities that we're doing or planning to do. Tabling events that are upcoming. Shannon, you put on the agenda Carnival, which is June 1st with a rain date of June 8th, and Art Beat, which is July 19th. Does anybody want to say anything about tabling at these events?
Well, June 1, Dennis, you and I are out of town.
Correct.
And the other one is July 18th,
July 19th.
19th, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, in the summer weekends get tough because we're not usually here.
So I know, well, I don't want to speak for Patrice, but after the April 17th event, she did say that she's available on June 1st.
Cool.
And Lisa also would be available. I'm available on June 1st. The rain date might be a little trickier. So I'm not sure if we sign up, if we're tied to definitely doing it if the date changes. But I know we didn't talk about it last meeting, but we talked about it the meeting before. And I think that Rona, did you look into the deadline for tabling or for signing up to table there?
No.
Okay, let me just look it up.
Also, I just noticed it's from 2 to 6, so there's a possibility. I don't want to commit because I don't know for sure, but we could just come home earlier than we usually do.
I also want to say from experience with Artbeat that getting there to set up at the beginning is really important. Being there till sunset is not all that important. A lot of other folks who table pack up before then. And Shannon, I know that you helped with the Artbeat tabling, at least like helping get things to the site, setting up things. You assisted Lisa with this last year, so you know the ropes a little bit.
Yeah, so sorry, I just checked. So the deadline for, I'm assuming we'd fall under nonprofits. The deadline was April 5th. I can still reach out to them and just see if they have space. I'll also talk to Lisa because I know that she wanted to table at this. And I do think it would be a good idea to get in East Somerville at an event, that a lot of people are going to be out at. So I'll do my best to see if we can get in. And then Janine, I know Rona and Dennis, you said you're not here that weekend. Janine, are you available for an hour or two on that day?
On the 1st, I need to check.
Okay.
I think probably, but I'd need to check just to be sure.
Okay, no pressure, no pressure. I just want to make sure we'll have enough people to do it. But I'll reach out to them either way and just put some feelers out. And then for Artbeat, that one, so I think Artbeat, the call comes through the city, so I'll get an email about that when it's time to sign up for tabling there. Because they do ask city departments and divisions to sign up, whereas Carnival is through East Somerville Main Street, so it's a little different because they're their own organization.
Yeah, if we do Carnival, we probably should have something colorful and flashy because it's more of that kind of thing.
It is colorful and flashy for sure.
Yeah. So, and when we did city, what's it called? Civic Day. There were people who had varying degrees of colorful things that were working and not working. So I think we should probably think about what was working. A couple of them had things where you spun
I was
things.
just thinking, that's so funny. I was
And
thinking things that spin seem to attract.
yeah,
Yeah.
those kinds of things are very attractive, or things where you throw a Nerf ball into something and it lands on something and then you have to answer a question or something like that.
Mhm.
So we should probably think, well, we might not have time to do that for this year because it's June 1st, so we only have one more meeting. But I'm gonna think about this because it's, we don't have giveaway stuff,
Right.
the way that, businesses would. And we'll be competing with businesses at Carnival for attention. So let me think about this and see if there's something cheap we can do.
Although I want to mention, and I'm quoting you, Rona, that the Housing Division and the Department of Racial and Social Justice and so forth have had a lot of swag to give away lately.
Mhm.
You know, we have some hand sanitizer and water
We got
bottle.
mayoral yo-yos that
Oh,
we
do we
give to our
really? That's
nieces.
funny.
So that kind of stuff can be available on the table. Rona, would you talk a little bit about what we did at the Art Beat last year and how you attracted people to come to the table?
Yeah, well, that worked well because Lisa had set up from Civic Day. She had set up these sheets with plastic coating on them, like with a page saver on them.
Oh, cool.
And there were ads, fictitious ads for apartments. And there was something wrong on each one and people were supposed to find them.
Oh.
And, and they're a little bit tricky because, there were questions about, if you have a service animal, can you charge a deposit? A pet deposit? Or
Hmm.
can you only charge a pet deposit on a pet? So some of them got a little bit in the weeds, but a lot of them were like, prefer young professional couple. How many things are wrong with that sentence? Young is wrong. Professional is on the edge because it can infer class and race.
Mhm.
And couple is family status, and that's against it. So, and people had to mark the part that was wrong.
Ah.
And the way I was doing it is I was sort of pigeonholing people going by and asking if they're landlords, tenants, or own a single unit. And, and if they said they were tenants, I'm like, well, do you want to know more about your rights? And if they say they're a landlord, do you want to know how not to run afoul of fair housing laws? And we got, I don't know how many people we got. I mean, Dennis, you were there. It was probably 1 out of 10 would stop and talk to us, which is pretty high for
That's not
something
bad
like
at
that.
all. Yeah.
But, but I'm more pushy than most people. So I don't know if everybody on the commission can be that not shy. But it worked fairly well as a way to engage people. Because there's something
That
for
sounds
everybody.
fun. That sounds
You
like
know,
a really good activity.
it worked pretty well. And what I figure is for future tables, we probably should have some more of those.
Mhm.
They're not that hard to do up, and then they're not a waste of paper, and
Right.
um, they're not, they don't take a lot of time. And that works out. So that was something, and we should have we had a billboard for Civic Day. And the only modification I want on that, and that was that an intern that helped you with that, Shannon? Somebody helped you with that. There's the thing that we don't have on there is all the protected classes in big
Ah.
writing. And I think that's the only thing we don't have that we need to have on a folding board. So, we've got a lot of stuff now. We've got the big houses, we've got some stuff that's doable. So there isn't that much we have to do to prep
Yeah, that board was shared with the rest of housing division.
housing, right?
Yeah, so it's like 3/4 inclusionary and then one
Yeah.
quarter for housing. But I think we probably have extra boards, so we can make a new
Yeah.
one with the protected classes listed.
Us is on it, because, and, and the protected classes are not as obvious as, we sort of live with it. But for people who haven't really seen them all written down, don't always know what it is, like the, source of income, what does that mean unless you know? And what's the difference between ancestry and ethnicity? They're
Yeah.
national origin and ethnicity.
And I think there are a fair number of people who are either unaware that veterans are veteran status is a protected classes, or are aggrieved that it isn't, and they're wrong because it is.
It
And
is.
either way, it would be useful to have that information out there.
And some of that is generational. Because I think people who were in their renting lives heavily right after Vietnam were aware of Vietnam vets really being discriminated against in big ways. And that's still happening to more recent vets, but it was a very big deal in the late 70s that vets were being discriminated against, which is how that happened. Like, the only reason you're a protected class is because there was known discrimination. So it's always interesting when someone questions that one. Why do veterans need that? I'm like, because they were discriminated against. So did I get too far off topic?
No, I think
Okay.
what we were talking about was planning for tabling events, and I think that it's a good thing that we now have a bunch of stuff in place, and I think the commissioners have asked Shannon to look into the applying for Carnival and Art Beat, and checking what kind of swag and what kind of board we can have available for that, and checking back with Patrice to see if she's available for the June 1st event. We're moving ahead. So unless anybody has anything else about the tabling events. Okay, so very briefly, because I think we want to discuss this in more detail next month, fair housing questionnaire for incumbent and challenging candidates for city council. Patrice has been very involved in this, which is one reason I want to keep it for next month. The other reason, I just checked this on the city's website. People who are running for office can't even take out their nomination papers until May the 5th. And then they have to return them by June the 11th. So that period between June the 11th.
I already got something in the mail from someone, isn't it? Like, is it just premature? Wow.
No, they
plan on doing it, so.
Yeah, they just can't, we just won't know who's going to be on the ballot until June the 11th. And it actually, if you want to be technical about it, July 2nd is when the nomination papers are certified. So the preliminary is, let's see. It's sometime in early September. September 16th, right? So that period between the middle of June and the middle of September is really our our key period for this. And, we'll want to know who the candidates are, send them the appropriate questions, bang on them to get answers in by the appropriate deadline, and also, work up our relations with local papers and other media to put them out there, and maybe think about other ways that we can share them besides the city website. But with commissioner's permission, we'll keep the substance of that discussion for next meeting.
Yeah,
That's
can
fine.
we set deadlines for that though? Because our next meeting will be the end of May,
Mm-hmm.
and we would want to have it launchable by the end of June. So that as soon as the July 2nd, I think you said, as soon as that deadline passes, we can start sending it out.
Mhm.
Well, yeah, so, right, the July 2nd is when the nomination papers would be certified.
Okay,
But probably by even the middle of June, we'll have a decent idea of who's going to be on the ballot.
okay, so would we just launch, the other commissioners would just say whatever you and Patrice come up with can go? Or do we need to rubber stamp it? I don't know procedurally whether it matters.
Dennis, so if I'm not mistaken, you and Patrice were going to like tweak it a little bit, but is it more or less the same survey? And then we're going to add, I think, a question for newer candidates or ones who have never run before. Am I recalling correctly?
That's the general structure. Yeah, I mean, but let me flip that around slightly, which is the ones who have seen these questions before and answered them before. We're going to ask them more
Got it. That's right. I
follow-up
remember now.
questions. And the challengers who have not run for it, will ask the more like the basic questions. So I mean, the commission can do this any way it wants. It can say, committee, do this up, send it between meetings to Shannon, and Shannon share it to the rest of us. Unless anybody objects, we'll just go with it. Or we can say, let's try to get it in shape to be approved at a June meeting and send it out after that. I don't know which of those approaches feels better to you, but we could decide that in May also.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So, thank you. Lots of stuff. Shannon, can you tell us, under continued business, there are the annual reports to talk about?
Yeah. So for the fiscal year 24 annual report, I finished the draft and it's with Lisa for review, and then I'm gonna send it to you all when she's done reviewing it. And then for the fiscal year 2023 report, as you know, it went to City Council, then it went to Housing and Community Development Committee, and I met with them and talked it over with them, and then it went back to City Council, and now it's marked as work completed. So we're good there.
Woohoo!
Did they have any substantive comments on the report?
They had a few, but they were mostly like things that I think we can work into next year's report. Like they were asking about what the current MCAD backlog is, which I'll be reaching out to MCAD for that. They asked about, I wrote it down one second.
And while you're looking, I'll just say again that MCAD is the Massachusetts Commission Against Discrimination, and explain that when we need somebody to enforce something about fair housing, they're the address that we send people to. Shannon, you were going to say.
Yeah, so two other things that I'm remembering right now. And again, like these were mostly comments for moving forward. reaching out to Suffolk about their testing program to see if the testing is only reactive or if they can do it proactively. I'm not sure, but I think that we might, if we might be able to like commission them to do it. I'm not exactly sure how that would work, but I'll be reaching out to Suffolk to see about that, about like proactive testing. And then the other thing was investigate where complaints are coming from. So if there are, I mean, I haven't seen any repeat addresses, but if we look up those addresses and there are repeat landlords or property management groups, that's something they wanted us to look into. So I will be doing that for the fiscal year 25 report. Which that is the goal for that is to be done within 90 days of the new or after the fiscal year is over. Yeah.
And so fiscal year 25 is over June 30th, is that correct?
Yes.
So we're looking at something like October.
Hopefully before then, but yeah.
Uh-huh. Anybody have any questions or comments about the annual reports?
Mm-mm.
No.
No,
Okay. Announcements? Anybody have birthdays, anniversaries, new
No.
pets?
no.
None of the above.
April is Fair Housing Month and it's almost over. That's the announcement. Yep.
Okay. Well,
Oh,
given,
should I move to adjourn?
please.
Okay, I move to adjourn at 4:06.
Excellent.
I'm going to take that as a second. from
Yes, I
Jim.
approve. I
I'll ma-
second,
and I'll
or
make-
there's only
yeah.
2 of us, so I wasn't sure.
Thanks again to Shannon for your excellent work, both
Yeah,
on
no.
April programs and in support of our meetings. And we'll all be in touch.
Yep.
Yeah,
Thanks,
this was a
guys.
good April, folks.
It definitely was.
Okay.